Imposter syndrome. What is imposter syndrome? Now, in my experience, imposter syndrome feels like you're a fraud, like you're wearing a mask. And it stems from feeling unworthy or not feeling enough. For example, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not qualified enough, you're not young enough, you're not old enough, you're not experienced enough. And all those feelings can be summed up as saying, I'm not ready. Example, you want to go for a new job. You want to go for a new goal. You get an opportunity to do something you've always wanted to do, but you're scared to do it. And the reason why you're scared or you're hesitant or you're awkward about it is because of this thing called the imposter syndrome. Because feeling like a fraud, feeling unworthy, feeling like someone's going to work out that you are trying to be someone who you're not is just too overwhelming. And this feeling of not being worthy, of not being qualified or being experienced or being the right age screams at you. And the words that scream in your head is, I'm not ready yet. So how do you overcome imposter syndrome? There are two things. The first thing that you want to look into is you want to keep your word to yourself. Now, what does that have to do with the imposter syndrome? What has that got to do with feeling unworthy? Let me tell you. Every time you and I make a commitment to ourselves saying, we're going to go to the gym, starting Monday morning, we're going to go to the gym. Anytime you and I make a promise to ourselves and we don't keep that promise, guess what happens? When you break your promise to yourself, you break your word to yourself. And now you know habitually that because you don't keep your word to yourself, this new opportunity, this new job, this new experience, this new thing that you could be doing, which is screaming at you, I'm not ready. The reason why you're more hesitant to go and take it is because of the fact that you know from your history that you don't keep to your own word. So every time you make a commitment to yourself, honor that commitment, because what it's doing is when that opportunity comes, you'll be honoring that opportunity by distancing imposter syndrome. Even though you might be scared, you still be scared because you're going to new unknown territory, but you'll take the position of going through with it because you know you keep your word to yourself, or by sticking to your own commitments. Genius, I think. The second thing in annihilating imposter syndrome is look at your identity. What label do you give yourself? Identity, how you label yourself, is equivalent to having a barcode on you. Just like you go to a supermarket and the supermarket scans through and each barcode tells the computer what you're purchasing, whether it's a shampoo or it's a hairbrush. The same thing is true for how you see yourself. How you see yourself is actually a barcode on you. It's invisible, but it's invisible in your attitude, in your behavior, in your beliefs. And that comes out every single day in little intricate ways. So for example, if you see yourself as an extrovert or if you see yourself as an introvert, you're going to act according to how you've labeled yourself. So if you get the opportunity to be head of an organization, head of a team, whatever it might be, and that new opportunity requires you to be speaking, to be networking, to be traveling heaps, but you see yourself as an introvert, but you really want to do that position, but it conflicts with who you feel you are, your identity, imposter syndrome is going to overtake you because now you're not only working with a new territory and you feel that you've never been before. Getting over that fear is one thing. Now you've got to get through the extra fear, but that's not who I am. And anytime you feel that's not who I am, it's in conflict with how you see yourself. Even though you want that new opportunity, even though you want that new thing, you have to look at what label are you putting on yourself that's preventing you and that's increasing imposter syndrome of getting to that next step for yourself. And those words will creep in. I'm not ready. Let me just clarify one thing. Saying I'm ready doesn't mean that you have all the answers. Saying I'm ready simply means I'm willing to learn what those answers are so I can put them into practice. So be careful of what label you put on yourself, because if the next opportunity or next position or next thing that you want conflicts with who you see yourself, imposter syndrome is going to inflate and you're going to find an even greater distance. So how do you change your identity? How do you change who you see yourself as being? That you can actually move forward with the things that you want to do and not feel so scared or not feel like a fraud or not feel enough. Here's one way of doing it. If you need to change your barcode, I know a terrible way of saying it, but in other words, if you need to change the labeling that you have on yourself, the identity that you've given yourself, here's how to go about it. This exercise was written in a book in 1979 by Barbara Sher. Here's how it goes. It's called the color exercise. So pick a color that appeals to you. Pick a color, any color. Now role play that color and pretend to be that color and speak for it, since the color can't speak for itself. So grab a piece of paper and write down, I am blue, or I am green, or I'm fire engine red, whatever color appeals to you. And then speak for that color and write down what it's like to be that color. So for example, I am green, simple, straightforward, and honest. You can say, I'm red, I'm fiery, I'm sassy, and I'm giving. I am yellow, always shining brightly, joyful, happy. I am blue, quiet, silent, and reflective. You do the exercise, it's really important to remember that you're only speaking for the color and you're not speaking for yourself. Now, there's no right or wrong answers for the colors. You can say that white is depressing. When you're speaking for the color white, you can say it's depressing. You can say black is the happiest color in the world. There's no right or wrong. What you want to do is speak for the color and speak for what qualities that color actually has. Now, here's where the rubber meets the road. Did you feel shy in explaining or speaking for the color and saying that it's intelligent, or it's fiery, or that it's giving, or that it's honest? Did you have any problem with saying what the color is? If you've done this exercise, you haven't. But really what the underlying layer is that when you speak for that color, you're actually speaking for yourself. And in that moment, you had no trouble talking about a color and expressing the views of a color. And so it's a very thinly veiled exercise to show you that you were just speaking for yourself. As you were talking about that color, you're actually speaking about yourself. So that's how to tackle imposter syndrome. The feeling of, I'm not ready yet. To alleviate imposter syndrome, feeling like a fraud, feeling like you're wearing like a mask, feeling not enough. The way to do that is keep your commitments to yourself. You must be able to keep those commitments, a handshake with yourself, to keep the promises that you make to yourself. It's not just about the promise, it's the long-term muscle that it builds of self-confidence in you and the worthiness and trust that it builds with yourself that allows you to overcome imposter syndrome when it creeps up. The second thing is, what label do you give yourself? How do you identify yourself? What barcode is on you? If the barcode, the label, how you see yourself is conflicting with an opportunity that you want to go for. And so what you need to do is you need to take off that barcode, that label, that identity, and replace it with one that actually serves the next opportunity that you want to actually head towards. And the best way to do that I found, that actually helps you think from a different perspective when you can't speak from your own perspective because you're kind of stuck in I'm not ready yet mode, is to do the color exercise and speak for a color that appeals to you. And as you're speaking for that color, it's going to automatically just get out all that goodness and all that worthiness and all the stuff that's going to allow you to align yourself to what you want to be able to do. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this has been of benefit to you. My advice to myself and to you is that life is a gift, and together, let's unbox it.